Let's talk about Netflix this morning. So a new memo has been leaked. This story is just unbelievable. So The Verge got their hands on an internal memo from Netflix all around this Dave Chappelle controversy. Now, you remember, of course, the Dave Chappelle Netflix special, which is hilarious. It was called The Closer. It came out in the fall. He said it was going to be his last Netflix special, the third in his series, right? And it was a huge success. And the ratings of it were through the roof, like really highly regarded. In fact, here's a rating that's up on billboards: a thought-provoking stand-up with a deeper meaning. That's a rap TV show and movie review. So that's up on billboards in different parts of the country for this, that they put up for the Closer. Netflix put a lot of money into this, and they paid Dave Chappelle, arguably, I think over like $100 million for this special. So they paid a lot, and they got a lot in return. You know, they didn't lose any subscribers. And in fact, they increased their subscriber base, and they had record profits as a result, right? So Netflix isn't hurting about this. But according to The Verge, Netflix has released an internal memo to all of those recruiters when they're hiring people to not talk about Dave Chappelle at all. Specifically, if people ask you questions, find a respectful way to end the conversation and move on to another topic. If you're pressed by your potential employee on the topic of areas not covered in the talking points, the memo says. The memo tells members of the talent acquisition team to not comment on Dave Chappelle's stand-up set, which sparked a national conversation about transphobia, cancel culture, and comedy. So in its section inside of the memo to its recruiting field, it says, "The Closer and employees. Netflix encourages recruiters to state, quote, 'We value our trans colleagues and allies and understand the deep hurt that's been caused.'" First of all, what deep hurt has been caused? Then they say, "We respect the decision."
Do you want an answer to that?
Hold on, let me finish this paragraph.
Okay.
And then, "We respect the decision of any employee who chose to walk out and recognize we have much more work to do within Netflix and in our content." Okay.
That wasn't their content, though.
Right. There's something else in here saying we believe it has no real world consequences. Do you see that? I'm looking for the quote. I don't see it. I read it earlier. I mean, so, okay, what's so wrong with this of telling people just don't comment?
Well, first of all, what employee, let's say I'm going to go to work for Netflix. Okay, right. I have the opportunity to go to work for Netflix in California and make a couple $100,000. And I'm going to sit down with a recruiter. I wouldn't be, I know about Netflix. Why would I be going to take an interview with Netflix if I was so opposed to Netflix because of The Closer and Dave Chappelle?
Why would I? That's a little confusing to me too, because if I'm trying to get a job there, am I going to push them about my personal agenda?
Exactly.
And then ask them to hire me?
That's like, hey, I hate fossil fuels. Okay. I find it repugnant what it does to the earth. And then I'm going to go and sit down for an interview with Exxon. Okay.
Yes.
And then I'm going to question them about their fossil fuel production. Where are you guys moving to a green energy? Because I'm not going to probably take this job if you are continuing to, deep water drill for oil in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not going to take this job. Well, fine. Then don't go, because we've got 30 other people here in the lobby who actually are engineers and we want to hire them.
So let's pretend this is company policy. It's just no one from Netflix should publicly comment on the political bent of this comedy special. Why is that not okay? Because let's say they have 5,000 employees, they have 5,000 different opinions about it, all valid by each person, but not valid on behalf of the company.
It's ridiculous.
So can't they say we don't need?
It's a ridiculous. It's Hollywood. It's this wokeness. It's if you want to look up wokeness in the dictionary, this is it. Right? Think about
why is this specifically?
Think about all of the other things that Netflix. Think about how many thousands and thousands of movies and TV shows and documentaries that they have on their platform. You could sit down tonight and watch the Ted Bundy conversations, right? The audio recordings of Ted Bundy going through and explaining how he killed people, right? That's okay. We can't
have movies about priests molesting kids. Like,
right.
It's like,
why can't we have a conversation?
The thing is, like, if you don't like Dave Chappelle, turn it off. Go watch something else.
And most of all, don't apply for a job at the company you think paid Dave Chappelle $100 million to do a Netflix special. And by the way, these people probably never watched the Netflix special. They're just joining on this Twitter bandwagon about how it was bad or how it was I thought it was a thought-provoking, really interesting and funny comedy special. And so you're not going to work at a company because they are a platform? I mean, it's ridiculous to me.
Okay, but let me just extrapolate let's just give some airtime to what the opposition to the closer is that when Dave Chappelle points out someone's assigned birth gender, how it is different from however they are presenting, and makes a joke out of it, it makes life a little bit more dangerous for people who are also presenting as a gender that they were not born as, right? And so if that can become a joke...
Why is that Netflix responsibility, though, to send out a memo to recruiters about hiring? I'm not saying it is, but
I think that you should understand. I think it's worth understanding how a transgendered person would say, look, I felt the wrong gender my whole life. Now I'm presenting as the gender I feel is legitimate. And I think that it's dangerous if people think it's a joke because it promotes hatred and people can get hurt in the real world. The same way homophobia or anything of the sort, right? So we're giving at least... We understand that. I personally don't feel like Dave Chappelle's jokes about transgender are delegitimate. I don't feel that. I have other, I don't like the sexism in his jokes, but I appreciate that he feels that way and it doesn't hurt me as a woman. Right.
You can choose to watch the special or not and laugh or not, right?
There are plenty of things that I'm like, I don't like that. And then there are plenty of things where I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's, you can take it and leave it.
That goes back to the whole argument of, do video games cause violence? It's like,
right.
There's no proof that people are going to watch that comedy show and then go out and be transphobic. Like,
yes.
Just like video games, there's no proof that kids are going to play violent video games and then go out and kill people.
Right. Great point. I mean, that's the point that they're making here in this piece, which is that, the memo, I guess at the heart of this is the memo, which is that, look, we're going to address this issue that if you're sitting down and a potential employee is going to question you about Dave Chappelle, we want to let you know, we support trans rights, right? So
I think where this goes too far is the idea that Dave Chappelle is pointing out that transgendered people were born or assigned a different gender. And you are not supposed to point that out. You're supposed to sort of allow that, legitimize that person's new way that they're presenting. And I've been watching the latest Sex and the City, and sorry if there are spoilers here, but Charlotte has a child that decides that she doesn't want to be a girl, she wants to be a boy, and changes her name at school, and everyone goes along with it. And the parents go in and they're like, why didn't you ask us if you could let her change her name to Rock or whatever? And they're like, oh, we didn't know you were resistant. And it pissed me off too, because I'm like, can't we all have a legitimate reaction, whether we're legitimizing someone or asking follow-up questions? I think everybody should be legitimized in their attempts to be inclusive. And whether or not you think, go ahead.
But why do people have, the thing is, why do people, if I wanted to be a woman, I would just go be a woman. I wouldn't be like, hey, you guys, everybody, hey, Facebook, I'm going to become a woman. I wouldn't bring all that upon myself. I would just do it. And I think that's the problem.
I don't think it's that easy, though.
Well, but it could be.
But I think we're missing.
If people were more accepting of just people being exactly who they are, instead of having to label it and make it something like this big thing.
I think at the heart of this, though, is that this is Netflix sends out a memo, picks one specific thing out of its entire catalog of things to be upset about. This comes when we talk about wokeness. This is exactly what it is. It is, we're going to tell you that we support trans rights. We're not transphobic. We still support Dave Chappelle. So can you have it both ways? You can't be somewhat woke, right? That's the thing with wokeness as a religion. It really is a religion. You can't be somewhat woke.
It's a cult.
It is. Well, it is. religion, as defined by Section 7, right, Title 7, basically says that if you believe it to your core in the same way that you would believe something like a religion. So what's to separate someone who really believes in something like wokeness or believes in these things like environmentalism or something? It's to their core. It's a religion. It doesn't matter that there's not like a Book of Mormon or a dogma. You believe it, right? So they choose to stand up and send this note out to their employees about Dave Chappelle, while at the same time seeing a huge spike in subscribers to their platform. They paid Dave Chappelle $100 million to do the special. They supported Dave Chappelle and said, we're not removing the special from our network. But then secretly they're sending out this memo. How do we deal with this? You can't have it both ways. Either you just say, we are an entertainment company. We have thousands of different videos and movies and TV shows, all representing all walks of life and ways of life. You can subscribe or not. Bye. Why does Netflix have to play politics with this? Why do they have to fall victim to this woke mob? No one canceled Netflix. No one canceled Netflix over this Dave Chappelle special. In fact, their numbers went up.
Yeah.
There wasn't like a mass, oh my God, we're going to cancel Netflix because Dave Chappelle did a comedy special and talks about, and by the way, he's not transphobic. He had a really interesting discussion about it. No one canceled Netflix. No one said, that's it. I'm done with Netflix. No one did that. And by the way, there were two employees. There were two employees who quit. One of which was actually fired because they gave away illegal sensitive information. They were terminated by releasing confidential information from the company. So fine, these two employees who were trans decided to leave. They were disappointed in the company and they left. That was their thing, that they wanted to do that. So
then
why is Netflix?
Okay, then what is the right thing for them to say? If they're feeling like, hey, people are asking us so much, what should we say about this? Then it's like, you say whatever you want to say is your opinion. The company line is that he's an artist, and we think that this was a part of his art, is expressing his experience as a human.
Yeah.
And we allow him the platform to do so because we appreciate his art, and that's it, right? And if you want to have a discussion about how this affects trans people and their ability to present in an authentic way for themselves, we can do that. But I don't think, where I'm with you on this is I don't think that has been done.
No. And they've chosen one thing out of their entire catalog of things that are highly controversial. Again, look in the documentary section of Netflix. Watch on How I Became a Killer.
What was the one where the like 10-year-old girls were in bikinis, thong bikinis and belly shirts? Everyone was canceling Netflix about that like 3 years ago.
I get, take your pick, right? If you want to go on Netflix and find something to be upset about, you can easily do that, right?
Yeah.
Don't watch it if you don't want to.
Oh, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of Emily in Paris in a few minutes here when we do.
Right, that's something to be upset about.
I am offended by that.
Emily in Paris, yeah, that's an awful show. So why don't we see a mass cancellation of Netflix over awful content? Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this in the chat below.
Yeah, and I think the thing is we just need to accept people as human beings. Like, if you're a good human being, I accept you. If you're a dick, I don't. Like, right. That should be what it is, period. Whether you're trans, whether you're gay, whether you're white, black, whatever you are, just be a good human, period.
Well, that's why we have our Don't Be a D mugs.
Yes, but again, I think that the real conversation that's lost here is about how a trans person can watch this and say, oh, but I'm actually trying to be this and you're laughing at me and it hurts, right? That can be said in a way that is not part of the cancel culture. For instance, yeah,
can't you just say it? Hey, I was offended by, like, going to a Don Rickles show, like from the 1960s and 70s and 80s. Don Rickles would get up on stage.
Yourself.
No, I'm saying Don Rickles. Is Don Rickles still alive? Or did he just pass away?
He did.
Anyway, he would get up on stage. He would make fun of Jews. He'd make fun of white. He'd pick everyone was a target and Don Rickles, and he'd go on the Tonight Show and make fun of everyone on the Tonight Show band, and he'd pick on what has happened to us, right? So if you're offended by Don Rickles,
he was Mr. Potato Head.
He was Mr. Potato Head in Toy Story. Like, Disney didn't find his stuff so offensive. Here's the thing about this cancel culture stuff, right? You have Gina Carano from
The Mandalorian.
who was in The Mandalorian, who was canceled over her take about persecution of Republicans, comparing it to Nazis. Then you had Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, who said virtually the exact same thing. He's allowed to keep his job. She's not. You want to then dig through Disney? You want to start digging through the archives to find out who is acceptable, right? So Don Rickles, how many times has he made fun of black people and Jews and on and on and on? And then you put him in a children's movie as Mr. Potato Head in the Toy Story? Let's cancel Toy Story now. Let's cancel everything. It's ridiculous. Dave Chappelle is not transphobic, and this memo is ridiculous. And Netflix should know better. I mean, this is Netflix, I thought, was doing the right thing here by standing by a guy they paid $100 million to do a special. And they're saying, no, it's his. We did the special. You can choose to watch it or not. And we're not going to be political about it. And then we learn about this memo. And I don't know. I'm just disappointed, I think, more than anything about it. Anyway,
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
I do not feel like the memo in and of itself is offensive. I feel like the larger story persists, but maybe
weak.
that should just be the Netflix company line, is when you are interviewing, you do not comment on why Netflix put certain content on our platform, because you don't make those decisions.
And by the way, if you're applying for a job at Netflix, don't ask that question. You're there to get a job, not, well, maybe I'll take this job if you tell me why you decided to do a Netflix special with Dave Chappelle. Like, give me a break. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this in the chat below.
But again, it falls down to hypocrisy. If they're gonna do that, then go watch Netflix whole catalog before you work there, because there's a lot of stuff in their catalog that you would be that's way worse than what you would get out of something Chappelle did.
Well, we got to come back to the topic, which is go woke, go broke, right? Like,
Yeah.
if that's where you want to go, then you're going to go broke, because good luck. You're not going to be able to do anything in this life. you know, you're not going to be able to wear clothes.
Time and time again.
I mean, just try it. Just try it. Yeah, Tosh.0, exactly. Like, just think about all of this.
Did you see that coffee shop? There was a coffee shop that put a 20% man tax on their coffee. And so men had to pay 20% more than anyone else, and they went out of business when they implemented that.
That's ridiculous.